isn't to live forever. The goal is to create something that will.
Welcome to Perspective, a podcast for wedding creators, where we sit down often with special guests and talk about our many years of experience in the wedding industry so you can learn from us and grow your wedding business. Hello, I'm Simon.
And I'm Greg.
Together, we are Cinemate Films, two Scottish-based wedding filmmakers who love nothing more than drinking coffee and talking shop with others in the wedding industry. And we've teamed up with The Weird Retreat to bring you a series of special episodes in the lead-up to the gathering on the 23rd to the 26th of March, 2026 in the Peak District. Obviously, this podcast is sponsored by WithJack and PickTime. And by the way, I forgot to thank PickTime Live for these lovely little jumpers that they sent us over Christmas. So thank you. Greg, who are we talking to?
We are talking to Sundari. Hello, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Very good, thanks.
Yeah, doing great. Thank you for joining us in actual clothes.
Yeah.
Our listeners are like, what?
Yeah, what are they talking about?
Before we recorded, she admitted about 5 minutes ago she was in her pajamas. So,
yeah, I don't have like a secret OnlyFans or something.
Oh, this podcast episode has just gone downhill so quick. Usually there's a bit of a build-up to how quick we go off the cliff, but this is great.
I guess
on you go.
For people who might not have heard of you, why don't you introduce yourself?
These always make me nervous. So, hi, my name is Sundari. I am a wedding photographer. I'm based down near London in a little village called Amersham, but I do weddings all over the world. My main medium is film, so I shoot all of my weddings on analog format, 35mm medium format. And yeah, I just freaking love. And this is like my second time round in the wedding industry. When I first started my career in weddings, I was actually a wedding stylist and sort of semi-planner. And then I kind of left the industry to do more commercial work. And then I've just in the last few years come back to actually being a photographer, which is just the best, actually.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know you were a stylist beforehand. How did you fall into doing that?
Oh, gosh, it's going to sound really lame, but when I was in university, I used to have my own little wedding blog because I was obsessed with them. And then when I left, graduated, much to my parents' dismay, I was like, I want to work in weddings. So I went and got a job at a bridal designer in London. I was an intern for a really long time. And then I worked for a high-end luxury wedding planning company. But then that was miserable. I won't go into too much detail because I'm actually not allowed to. Then I went back to the bridal designer, got made redundant. And then my dad was like, well, why don't you start your own company? And I was like, I can do that. So at 22, he helped me set up my own company. And that's sort of how I began wedding styling as a thing. And yeah, I did that for a good 4 years.
Mm-hmm. Why were your parents so dismissive of the idea of you becoming anything to do with the wedding industry?
Just anything creative. My parents are South Asian. They only understand if you become a doctor, lawyer,
right,
dentist, anything sort of formalized. I was the creative child that they couldn't understand. But they, my dad tried to push me in the direction he sort of understood, which was sort of creative. I think their fear was very much around job security, which, with the life that I have led, I understand now their fears because I've fought hard to stay in the creative industries and it's been really tough. But so that was their main sort of fear around it. I don't think they still really fully understand what I do. I think they kind of get it now because it's a little bit more self-explanatory. I photograph weddings, but yeah, no. So that was their worries around it.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like they're quite supportive though, with the fact that you said they encouraged you to go out on your own and make something for yourself.
Yeah. There was definitely in my dad. He always ensured that I was very independent and knowing that I needed to be independent. But there was a real push and pull with this sort of like cultural expectations of how much I should be earning and what I should be doing. But then also understanding that your child's a little bit different to what you understand or what you are. So, yeah, I mean, when he first helped me start, I think he gave me a $4,000 loan to start my business. But then in a year, he was like, why have you not earned like £100,000? And I was like, what do you mean? What? Where did that come from?
What kind of return on investment is that? That's crazy.
Yeah. I was like, how, what? And there was, in his mind, there was a very push and pull. Like he knew I needed to earn probably that much to survive and make some sort of a living. And then his confusion and not understanding how the wedding world works, or even like, I mean, I was also 22, 23 starting a business, turning 100K in a year. I mean, you know, some people do it, but I did not have the savvy to.
Yeah.
So thinking about your stylist career and your photography career, how do they, like, what did you learn from this, being a stylist in the wedding industry and your passion for weddings then, that sort of helped you now coming back into the wedding industry?
It's given me another perspective. I understand all the other different roles of the vendors and suppliers that work outside of it, but also like from the perspective of my couples, like being able to support them. I think now that the world is ever increasingly expensive, and lots of couples are now, I'm noticing, not opting for planning because their fear around the cost of it, etc., which is a shame because it is a really essential part of the, you know, having an event that, you know, you're not going to be stressed about, and beautiful with all of, you know, how huge production they're seeing now online. But being able to support them in sort of like helping with those little decisions here and there. And then also because I worked in fashion industry, I think there's a big appreciation for like my eye. So I come at it in composition wise. I come from a designer's perspective. So I know that there are certain details that I'll photograph maybe slightly differently. But then because I'm an incredibly emotional person, I think I offer a different perspective and composition, maybe. I don't know. This is where I'm sort of like, I'm still a little bit confused as to why people like my work. I love what I do. I love what I do. And people really, you know, when someone says some really nice things about my work, I'm like, that's amazing. How did I do that? Like, I think it's just sort of one of those like things where you just sort of like, my brain must compose in a certain way. And I can credit a lot to my very wiggly career path, but also like my fascination with like movies and like romantic dramas and things like that. So yeah, bit of a haphazard.
I want to stick on this topic just a little bit. You shooting details in particular, because I was at Thrive last year, and I can't remember who it was, but everyone loves to get into the whole luxury wedding industry. And I do remember a comment from one of the speakers as to how you should shoot details with planners in mind. Can you give some tips as to how you should approach detail shots for maybe people out there who struggle with things that inherently just don't really have an emotional impact, or is even that emotional impact, is that important for details? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question. I remember when I was a stylist and I would get like galleries back from photographers, and I used to work with, and I would always recommend like photographers I knew I would get a really beautiful gallery from that would have the details that I could then, you know, showcase my work, which again is just, it's coming. You got to think ultimately, whatever wedding you're working with, even if it's not a luxury wedding, if it's just like an artistic one, you've got to just think, if you want to impress the suppliers when you're taking the photograph of the space or the details, like how would you want your work to be perceived? I guess maybe understanding that there is a tick list. You don't have to hit that though. It totally depends on like your goals with progressing and whether you want to share those galleries with the suppliers and like them to tag you and stuff like that. And the more that you serve those photographs, it is also thinking back to the emotional side of it. But like, I mean, I just had my second marriage, and like looking, some of my favorite photos are of the flowers on the table, because I put so much heart and like love into the florist, and she did the most outstanding work. And some of them are just the most stunning photographs. And I was so like on the day I remember thinking, I really hope that this photographs how I remember it. So there is an emotional attachment to the details. Like you think like these people have spent their money on these tiny little things. And I think it's important to photograph all of the aspect, because when you look back on an event, you want to see all of the story. You don't want to just see like photos of people smiling at the camera. You want to remember all of the different details that you put all that energy into. Yeah. But I mean, again, I'm not very good at advice in that, but I think in terms of like detailed photographs, just think of like who you're serving. Do you want that person to share your photographs? Making sure that if you're photographing the tablescape, that you're getting one where the table from this, from a length weight angle, from above, you get the table setting, making sure that everything's straight on. Like if you need to stand on a chair, take your shoes off, because they might have paid very lot of money for those seat pads. You don't know. And just like have a little tick list of like, okay, well, make sure that you have a top down from the side. Like you go down low, you photograph it like in a landscape, because what if the wedding planner is great and then they love that photo and they want to put on the banner of their website? Like that's a cool thing. So, I just think like having like a little tick list in your head of ensuring that you cover the bases of how you would want your work photographed if it was yours.
Yeah, I suppose I should probably clarify a little bit, because that specific question came around luxury weddings in particular. So if you weren't fond of going into the luxury market, then that advice wasn't that important to you. But it was more so the relationship building. Mm-hmm. Again, you can run your business in a whole different way from everyone else. But if you are particularly, relationship building, you wanted those referrals from venues or planners, then that was something to consider. But yeah, so you enter a dining room. What's the first thing that you're gonna look at or think about? Let's give me some practical tips. How would you shoot just a room full of stuff?
Frantically, because I don't often have a lot of time.
Okay, that's good. Yeah.
So I might not be like the best person on this, because I wouldn't say I don't shoot luxury weddings. I think the money that my clients spend on a wedding is a lot of money. And when I'm walking into the whatever space that they have for the dinner tables, there are normally quite a lot of details to photograph, but I almost can't really think about it. I've just got to kind of like just get in there, make sure that I've got landscape and portrait of their table settings. I normally make a beeline for where they're sat, photograph their two settings first. Then I go and probably do a lengthways of the table, making sure that the candles are lit, because sometimes you're waiting for that to be done. And normally I'm nagging like the venue person to be like, I need to photograph this because I need to go and do more group photos or whatever it is. So table photographs normally have to happen within about 10 minutes. And just making sure that I'm just covering, like, I will have already done a lot of like discussion with the couple. I already will know what's going to be on those tables. So I know that, if there's a menu, if there's not, on the day though, I will probably in my head go, oh, there's meant to be this on the table. Then I'll ask who's like responsible for that, and making sure that everything is there. And normally the bride and groom or whoever the couple are, table settings are done first. So I normally know like that's the first thing that I go to. And then if I know that there's going to be outstanding flowers, or if there's just going to be loads of candlelight, like you already sort of have in your head, because of all the pre-chats with the couple or the planner.
Yeah, I think that's something that's probably carried over from your previous career, because a lot of photographers would go in and shoot a table not knowing what was meant to be on it.
Oh, yeah,
So
I know.
they're just like, shoot. And then 10 minutes later, they'll go, oh, there's now a vase over there.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'll need to shoot that again.
Yeah.
Whereas I think your previous career has let you be more prepared for that type of thing nowadays.
Yeah, probably. I do spend a lot of time talking to my couples in the lead up to their wedding. So I ask all of these questions in a questionnaire. And I think that's like the biggest tool that you need to have. And I've often been surprised at how much photographers don't ask pre a wedding day. Like I'm just of the mentality of like, I'm obsessed with knowing what I'm walking into. Like otherwise I'll be scared. I'll be like, what are my expectations here? Like I need to know everything, even if it doesn't affect me at all. Like even, in that questionnaire where you're asking about family dynamics and like how many group photos and things like that, you should be asking, okay, well, what is the fashion designer that you're wearing? Like, are there any heirloom details? Like, are there any surprises that I don't know about? What is on the table? What are your favors? Where are they displayed? Like, I don't, you just have to know everything. Like, I'm just obsessed with knowing exactly what's going on. So on the day, I'm not taken aback by anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, just knowledge is power, as they say. Not really lame.
But it's true, though. It's absolutely true. I mean, I'm assuming, of course, that when you're in talks with your clients, that you are sending out questionnaires for them to fill out and all that, just to get every single detail that you can. Do you have any tips as to questions that maybe other photographers might miss in questionnaires in getting to learn about their couples? Or
oh gosh, I mean, I wouldn't want to presume that anybody's missing questions.
Well, true, but they do.
Everybody,
but they do.
What could be missed? I don't know. I don't know whether it'd be missed, because in my head I'm like, well, how would you miss this? But I would want to know what the color palette, what the scheme is. I want to know what all of the suppliers' Instagram handles are, so that I can go and look at them beforehand. And that also, like on the day, if I'm doing any behind the scenes content, which I also never have time for, but when it comes to in the future, when I'm posting that wedding, people really, really, really appreciate a tag. So I'll do my best to try and get all that information prior from the couple. So on the day, like in my notes app is where I'll normally have like the timeline, and I'll have like the little like list of suppliers with their Instagram handles, so I can like look them up. I mean, couples often forget all of their suppliers, so undoubtedly you'll miss something. But I think going and trying to also like have a touch point with all the suppliers pre the wedding day, say I'm really looking forward to seeing your work, yada yada yada. I think that's really nice. But in terms of questions, just asking who's going to be there, what's the color palette, what's your flow of the day when the photographer's not there. Like I want to know what they're doing pre me arriving and afterwards as well. So if I think that there's an opportunity in photographing, I'll suggest and be like, hey, that sounds like a really lovely moment, or do you want that photographed, or do you want that documented? Or I'll give them advice and be like, oh, you should make sure that you have disposable cameras for after I'm gone. Like, so it's just sort of like not just thinking of like, okay, when I'm there, this is all I'm responsible for, like the wider picture, understanding what their full flow of the day is, I think is integral to building trust with your client as well, which is really important.
Yeah. I have to say the Instagram handles, I feel, is a big one for even like on the back end. Like it's super useful to check out people's work prior to going in, but like even on the back end when you're trying to put a blog together and you're I don't know, everyone's blog approach is different, but when we write a blog, we try to be as helpful as possible. When we have, images in our videos, that all the suppliers are down the bottom, very easily linked to their sites or whatever, just so it's easier for couples. Like if they find their way onto our blog, then they can find their way to the visual things that they're seeing very easily. And I think trying to be as helpful as a supplier for everyone just is a good thing to do.
Yeah.
And yeah. Let's talk about your clients then, because obviously we just kind of dived in a random part of a conversation. But yeah, who is your like, and I don't like to use the term ideal client, but like who is it in your head that you love to work with? Who are you reaching out to?
Millennials.
Okay.
Like, I feel like first and foremost, like millennials, because they often hark to that nostalgic feeling that I have as well when it comes to photography. A lot of them will be hobbyist film photographers. A lot of them will be in the age range around me as well, like in their 30s. They are often part of the couple is in creative, or part of them are sort of like, it's hard, isn't it? Because people are so varied, but oh God.
It is hard. Yeah.
Creative millennial in their 30s. I mean, I think I would say that would be, in terms of ideal, that's it. Like, that would be my sort of like, if I was going to describe someone, but I don't know if that's descriptive enough. But I feel like when you say millennial, that's pretty descriptive.
Yeah, I would agree. I always remember, and this isn't true for everyone, but I love it when people say, "Oh, my ideal client is me, but richer." Like, yeah. I mean, it's
I don't know if I'd like me as a client.
Oh no! Oh, why? Why?
I don't know. It's just so fucking intense. Like, I'm too much. Like, I'm so involved.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that from your ADHD, or is that? Cause I know my wife is the same way. She likes to get involved, and
yeah, I don't know. Yeah, maybe. I think I'm like stumbling over my words here, but maybe. I don't know. I haven't been like, but I think I'm just a very involved person. I like to know everything that's going on, and I'm quite like involved. So yeah, I don't. Yeah, I'm not sure I would be my ideal client.
It's fine. I'm intrigued. What? So you're now married for the second time. Was that? Did you say that was recent?
Yes, just October.
Wow!
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you.
How did having your second wedding change how you view things, or you know, bring in to highlight the things that you really want to work on as on the experience aspect of being?
Yeah, massively. What surprised me was how slow people got back to me. Like, responses. Okay. Sometimes I wouldn't even get responses. Which was really surprising to me, because whenever I get an inquiry, I always try and respond within at least 2 days. And if I've forgotten, then I'll always apologize. I will always, like, even if I'm not available. Yeah. That really, really surprised me. But then also, like, the caregiving and the email experience, like, you could tell which was just like, and I understand not being emotional in like the first, or like not being like, don't know what the right word is, but like not being friendly in the first email, not engaging in a sort of like, not engaging in like this might be a strong wording, but in a human way. Like, you can tell when it's just sort of like a rigid, like, what do you want? What do you need? What this is, but you know, like when it's a bit more robotic. And I understand we have like, I have my auto sender, which I always make a point of like manually replying to inquiries, even though it's like a pre-built email. I will always go in and adjust it, and I could really, and I don't know why it impacted me, but it disappointed me whenever I just got some sort of like bland email that just sort of asked like basic stuff. It just felt like, oh, you've just clicked a button. And then it made me immediately emotionally disconnect, because when you're planning a wedding and you're getting married, even if it's like for the second time, it's, if anything, it's more emotional getting married because you've made the choice to get married for the second time. Not a lot of people do that. A lot of people sort of go, no, not for me, because bloody hell, that time wasn't good. And then also, like, again, because we go back to the cost of things now, you want people that feel emotionally invested in the work that they do, because where you, and I believe everybody should be like this, where you spend your money, should reflect what you believe as a person, and that you resonate with who you're investing in. Wedding photography isn't cheap. To us, obviously, we are charging the amount which we deserve, and we're freelancers and we need to charge what we need to charge. However, to the everyday layman's, it's a lot of money. And when you think of people spending, even if it's 20 grand out of anyone's pocket is a huge amount of money. And I think if you're not coming across as some sort of friendly human interaction that actually feels like a real person, you're losing out probably on a lot of people. Some people maybe appreciate the more clinical emails. Me personally, I immediately disconnected and wanted to find somebody who actually felt a bit more engaged with my email. Because also I put a lot of effort into when I was emailing. I didn't send Bing log emails and be like, here's my Pinterest board, here's everything about me. But I sent an email that like was just sort of like, you know, we've made these choices on the venues because they mean a lot to us. Like we've decided to get married for the second time. You know, it's happening in this location and it's happening now in 5 months because of my dad's illness, you know, things like that. And I just think often, I don't know, maybe people are forgetting that sort of emotional disconnect. And because we go, it's our job, you know, it's a very emotionally intense job. We work with people who are spending a lot of money and getting married. And I think sometimes people can be a little bit like glassed over because we do it so much.
Yeah, I think you've got to, like, these people are going to invest a few £1,000s minimum for their photos.
Yeah.
We've all got our template emails, but just to take a 1 minute, if somebody's put the effort to write an email that's detailed, just compliment one thing in that email just to make it slightly personal.
Yeah.
It only takes a minute. Like, it's worth it.
And I know it's frustrating because we often get inquiries that you can tell are copy and pasted. However, they're probably emailing a good amount of people that they've taken the time to look at. They're not just like spamming a random list because it's not easy to find photographers that you want necessarily all in the same genre. There's not like a little spreadsheet where you can like blast off. You can't. You have to go to people's website. You have to find their contact form and stuff. So even if it is a copy and paste, still like taking the time so that you have some sort of element that is a touch point to them, it's going to have immediately way more impact in them. And then also like just the experience of through our wedding, like the way that people sort of converse with us. Like one of the things, we had our reception like in a restaurant. My partner's a chef, so it was really important to have great food. It was the way that they emailed and looked after us was just incredible. And I used to work in hospitality, so it was like a surprise to me of how engaged their general manager was. And it made the experience 10 times easier. And I did the wedding. I was the most burnt out because I had weddings before and after internationally. And I was so tired. So having like suppliers who were really engaged with the emails and replied promptly and were just there, that really shone a light. And I was like, oh, I need to make sure in the future with my clients that I do reply, even if I'm busy, like say, hey, I'm busy, I will get back to this, I promise. And like make sure I flag it and stuff, because it's so easy when you're overrun with a busy season to like maybe miss out on that.
Was there anyone, obviously without giving away names, right? But was there anyone that you were surprised at that you contacted but didn't have a good feeling back?
Yeah. I don't need to name names, but there was one florist who just did not reply. And I don't know whether it's because my email never got in. That could be it. That's also a thing. And then there was another florist who I even had like a back and forth because I was still trying to like, you know, look at the option, but it was just very clinical responses. And it treated the wedding more like, okay, just almost like a product list. And I was like, it didn't ring true with what, right, like, or how, you know, how I wanted to sort of plan my day.
No, the reason I asked, and I do want to just make sure I wasn't wanting to spotlight anyone in particular. It was more like, because we are in an industry and we can be in it for a short amount of time or a long amount of time. And even if you've been in it for a long amount of time, there are still things that you miss and can be worked on. And I think that initial contact is something you want to focus on. And if you've maybe not looked at it for a while, it's maybe beneficial just to go back and have a look and actually, what are your CRMs sending out if that's something you're not on top of? Because I know a lot of you either don't have CRMs, and that's cool if that works for you, and you don't and you write all your emails. But if you do have a CRM, you can be almost like me in the way that, I've set it, it's automatic, it's great, that's good, that's it handled, and then I just go off and do all the other things that are more exciting. Don't do that. Get yourself a Greg and have a Greg do those things for you.
I was going to say, what's the dynamic here with you two?
So it's sort of, as Simon said, I take on most of the admin and back end work, communicating with the couples. Simon does more of the creative work, so he'll do the editing, take lead on the wedding day as well. So it sort of splits kind of creative admin to some extent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not to say that Greg is not a beautiful creative in his own right. He is.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome, Greg. You're welcome. We're going to interrupt this podcast to bring you an advertisement for PickTime, our buddies at PickTime. We love PickTime. If you want to elevate your business, PickTime's maybe the way to do it.
It's an online gallery delivery service.
It's a really good looking one, which is initially how we got into the service. It just looks better than all the other kind of platforms that we personally use.
Yeah. We've over time got to know the owners, got to know the people behind it. Lovely people, great support system there as well.
There's just so many tools at your fingertips with PickTime, but the marketing and the blogs and the slideshow features.
Yeah, there's so much more than just a gallery delivery service. You've got all those things that Simon was talking about. You can create your own blog from it. You can create slideshows. One new feature that I really love is the vendor network. It's where you can use AI to curate a gallery for a specific supplier. So you could use AI to gather all the photos of the flowers and send them to the florist, and they would have that gallery specific just for them.
It's kind of a mind-blowing feature.
Yeah.
And we might as well be taking advantage of AI before the uprising and it starts taking advantage of us. So let's just all bear that in mind.
Yeah, and not to mention the built-in store, and that way you can just make more money while also having a nice, aesthetically pretty gallery.
Yeah. And if you want to sign up today, you can get a free month if you use Perspective at checkout.
Yeah.
So if you want to test out for free for a month, go for it.
Take your business to the next level with PickTime.
Yeah, so let's talk about your work. So obviously we spoke about your clients and all that kind of stuff. And obviously you spoke about working primarily with film. Why don't you describe the style of work that you make? And I know a lot of people, when it comes to tech, they don't really care, but film people are different. They like to know even the fucking nuance of things. One time I was like, I got one of our listeners to be like, hey, I know you got this guest on. Can you ask him what printer he uses for his print? And I'm like, oh, what? Okay. So if you want to go into that, your equipment very quickly.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely can. I will disclaimer this. I'm not a tech kind of gal. But okay, style of work that I do. I think I'm always, I don't want to sound wanky, but I always have loved Dutch masters work. So I've always been incredibly inspired, since I was a child, by Vermeer. So whenever I'm trying to create a photograph on film, particularly because that is exclusively my medium. I don't use any digital photography at all. I'm always trying to create very softly lit side light settings. Obviously, in every environment, you can't get that, but that is sort of my main sort of goal, is to create a painterly photograph. And just very soft, delicate, emotional, I would say, very tactile, quite intimate, the photography. I often describe myself as the photographer for the camera shy couple, because I don't often do really overly posed to the camera kind of images. Yeah. They're a lot more enveloped within each other. So during couple sessions, I will often very rarely ask them to look at the camera. But that's something I left after my wedding. I was like, oh, no, you need to make sure that you get photos of them looking at the camera. Like, that's important. So, but yeah, no, I would describe my work as incredibly emotional, painterly, and intimate. And then in terms of gear, I should have put them next to me, but I use, I know it's a weird obsession in the film. Like when people talk about film, they're just sort of like, "What camera do you use?" And I'm like,
"Yeah." Is there a secret vintage camera that I don't know about?
It costs 50 quid. It's like a Canon EOS 5. Like I know loads of film photographers are using like the 1V. I mean, when I have money, I might buy that. But I've just got this basic Canon EOS 5 body. It's got a 50mm lens with a 1. I mean, I had to learn this because the amount of times I get asked. Like otherwise, I had no idea before. A 50mm lens with a 1.4 f-stop. So, and then I've learned over time that's good for low light settings, whatever. And then I've got a 40mm pancake lens. So those are my two like go-tos on a wedding day. So I've got a 40 and then I've got a 50, and those are my two only lens. I have a 24 in my backpack. I never use it unless like it's like a bigger wedding and they really want like, or it's like a formal table setup and you want that big wide room photograph. I very, very rarely use that 24. And then I've also got my Canon A1, which I lug around with me, which is like the slower shutter. You've got to manually wind it, etc. And then I have just a 50mm lens on that. And then I also have, I think it's a 70-200 lens, and I use that specifically for portraits. It's sort of like a zoom, but I mainly work with primes, but then that zoom is so buttery beautiful for portraits. It creates a really like intimate framing, and it sort of like, I don't know the best way to describe it. It sort of flattens the subject. So like, yeah, it just looks almost like a movie photograph, and I love using that so much. And that's f of 4.5 thing, I think.
Yeah.
Gear is just not my like. It's a really, really funny one. I found it really, really curious. Because I would, whenever people ask me, and I'm just like, yeah, I mean, it really like it's the lenses. It's not the camera body. It's the lenses. When you've got a really nice lens with a good glass on it, Bob's your uncle.
Yeah, but those older lenses as well. They were made with such. Well, I don't want to say such care because obviously lenses these days are still great and amazing. But like, I don't know, the build quality of those older lenses, oh, so good. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bit surprised to hear someone who works in 35mm film not mention or bring up a 28mm. Is that last year's trend? I don't know.
Don't know what it does, mate. No. Don't know her. Don't know the 28. Haven't tried it. Don't know it.
Yeah.
Like, maybe I should give it a go. Maybe I should look into it. I don't know.
I mean, I'm sure you could borrow one from everyone because everyone seems to have one apparently who shoots film. But
I'll go Google it after this and see what it does.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
I guess, like, why film for you? Like, is it because it gets you to that painterly look that you want to create? Or you mentioned nostalgia earlier. Is it purely because of that?
Yes. So when I made the decision to come back to the wedding industry and do photography, I never planned to come back to weddings. After my divorce, I was like, hell no, can't deal with that emotional trauma again. But when I was a stylist, I worked pretty much exclusively with film photographers because I appreciated their work, and they mainly were hybrid. And I really loved the style. I guess I didn't really know much of it back then. And then during the pandemic, I started learning and teaching myself film photography. And I was also doing some small like fashion jobs. Now the fashion industry is pretty much still like most of the work that you see are film. So it was almost like when I was working in that field, exclusively film as well. And I had like an RZ A6-7, which I used for all the medium format work there, like proper studio, big fat baby camera.
Yeah.
So I'd always used it as like a medium, and it was always like an instinctual medium. But I'd also, like, in my learning of film photography, I'd sort of stumbled into this portraiture workshop run by these two women. One's based in the UK, one based in Basel in Switzerland. And they also work exclusively in film. And it just sort of like emphasized to me the slower capacity of the work. Now, when I sort of decided to come back to weddings, I had a DM from a follower who was celebrating her 10-year wedding anniversary, and they didn't actually have like a wedding the first time, but they wanted to celebrate. They had 2 children. They'd booked this amazing house down in Devon, and they were like, we really want you to photograph it. And I was like, oh gosh, yes, absolutely. But I was still not sure whether I was going to do weddings. And then part of my research for that was looking at my parents' wedding album. And my parents got married in 1979. And they've got this big old school, like, white wedding album. And the first 2 pages are filled like 15 photos from like their Sutton registry office. They don't even remember the date because they had like a big celebration. My parents are actually from different cultural backgrounds in different countries, but they had a big Hindu wedding in Sri Lanka with my dad's family. So the album is filled with all of those photographs. But when I was researching for this booking, I was looking at their images and I was like, these are all film. Like, why would I approach it? I ended up doing it hybrid, but I kept leaning into my film camera for the job in the end, because I just kept looking back at my parents' like very natural, humble film photographs. And I was like, if I'm going to approach photographing people, I want to come from that aspect, that nostalgic, that humbleness. I mean, it's just the two of them, like, and my dad in like flared trousers, and it's just like they had 2 friends with them. My mum looks gorgeous, and it just, they've not had the easiest of marriages. And obviously from my history of my track record, I know that it's not always straightforward in a fairy tale. So I wanted to approach weddings by being like really, I don't know, again, trying not to sound like a wanker, but like from like that really humble perspective of like, you know, weddings aren't all perfect and they aren't fairy tales. And if I'm going to photograph real people in this way, I want to do it in a medium that harks to those wedding photos that my parents had. Like, because that day, you know, was so purely innocent and they were so naive to, you know, the rest of their story. But I was just like, it just epitomizes love. And yeah, so then I was like, okay, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it all on film. I was like, I had, at that perspective, at that time, I had no idea how much film I would need to use on a wedding day. But then I slowly started coming back into it, and then I budgeted, and lucky enough, one of my first weddings was just absolutely incredible, and I had enough film and it worked out, and I was like, right, okay, that's my base. And because of that, like, partial booking where I did it hybrid, and I knew how much film I used for that, I sort of like based it on that. And then I remember doing market research. So when I first was going to launch into it, I emailed loads of my friends who I'd known in the last time I was in the wedding industry. And after I was like, so what's the goalpost of pricing in photography? And the responses were so varied. And I was like, oh, okay, I can just price what I want, really, because like there's like 20 grand to like 2. So somewhere in the middle where I can cover my costs, I'll be okay. And I think, again, it's that naivety of not really understanding like who else is doing anything. I've always been very much like, even when I was a wedding stylist, I put my blinkers on. I try not to focus on what other people are doing too much because it would freak me out. Again, coming back to, I'm a very intense person. I'm also highly anxious. So if I get freaked out that I'm not going to be able to do something. But with wedding photography, I had this really, really weird confidence about, like, I just feel really like I felt in my gut I knew what I was doing. Luckily, it turned out okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. I'm intrigued. Well, obviously, in when we were talking about your tech, we didn't mention what kind of film you like to lean into.
Mm-hmm.
Does your location determine what film you use, or is it that kind of painterly vibe that a certain film gives you? Like, tell me about your choice there.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be no surprise to any photographer. Portrait 400 is reliable. It's professional grade. You know it's going to be a good workhorse. So that is what I bulk out my color film with. However, when you're in a hot climate, so I photographed a wedding in Marrakesh, and then I had a really hot one in Italy. There was a lot of gold 200. Again, I use gold 200 because it has those warm painterly tones. And again, to everybody's horror, I underexpose my film and I shoot at box speed. So that's my go-to with in terms of like what colors I get. Because I really like shadow, I like side light, I like brown warm tones. So gold and portrait really, really fulfills that for me. I don't use much else. But however, I'm very, very particular about the black and white film I use. So I'm obviously a woman of color, and a lot of film obviously wasn't made for people who are melanated like us. It was made for furniture. So when it comes to black and white film, a lot of them that are high contrast are not flattering. And I think it's really important to be aware of, when you're using high contrast film, the skin tones and the skin textures of people that you're photographing. So I love Delta 400 for my black and white. I almost use it exclusively because it's got this sort of really nice buttery, soft grain. It's not like, it doesn't highlight pigmentation. It also is just so I would say it's monochromatic. It has nice depth to it, but it doesn't like sort of, when you've got like a couple who are of different ethnicities as well, it sort of balances it. It doesn't like highlight the difference, which I think is really, really important. Because you don't want one person to feel like they're super pale or one person to feel like they're super dark. And that has been something that over being in the analog world, and I like had a tintype, and I remember having a tintype, and everyone like who I was with getting their tintype done, and they all look so lovely and beautiful. Obviously they're fair skinned, and then I got mine done and I was like, oh my god, I immediately put it in the bin, and I was like, well, that's 15 quid down the toilet. I put it in the bin because I felt so bad. It like highlighted all of this texture, but again, it's a beautiful medium and it's really cool. But then when you look into the history of it and how it eradicates tattoos and all of these things, it's not made for documenting all skin tones and all people. And I really wanted to make sure, being the person I am and the I wouldn't say I'm radical, a bit of a lefty. It's really, really important to me that people are aware that film isn't built the same for every skin tone. And if you're going to photograph on film, you need to be aware of that and do your research and practice and spend money and work with people of different backgrounds and skin tones to learn what you like and what is flattering to the client as well.
Do you have any good resources for those out there who maybe haven't, or maybe even are scared to take the time, money, because film is expensive. Do you have any good resources for people to look at the different films over different kinds of skin tones and stuff?
You know what? There isn't a lot of resource for this. And I think it just goes to say that all you can do is research heavily on Instagram. Analog Wonderland, I remember when Phoenix was being brought out, I actually worked part-time for Analog Wonderland. And I was one of the first people to experiment taking the photographs of Phoenix. And one of the things that we did was use people of different skin tones to understand how it showcased that. So trying to find blogs and places that maybe are experimenting. I know that there's a really great, there's some great labs out there to follow, like Analog in Amsterdam, Analog AMS, I think they are on Instagram, and Find Lab on Instagram. They're both really great in showcasing like different films, and like, you know, with the launch of like Kodacolor 200 and 100, like again, though, it's also really down to the lab that you use. That's what that can widely influence your final pictures. If you're using snappy snaps, I don't believe you'll be getting like the true look of what the film could be or is. And it is an investment, but if you want to be charging people for your work, you have to be willing to put your money where your mouth is.
Agreed.
Like, it's going to cost.
Yeah. So tell us about how you price then. It's another thing that, again, you said it varies wildly. And even with film photography, you know, a lot of people getting into film might not think to compare certain other prices against their own. And I don't know, there's a lot of variety. And we do want to make sure that we're running a business to make a profit, to support our lives and our loved ones. So can you tell us more about how you price things up?
Gosh, yes, I can. I wouldn't say I'm necessarily very business savvy. I would say, so I used to, again, another thing I used to do, I used to hand make backdrops. So back when I used to make backdrops, I was also dating somebody who was an accountant, and he was like, you need to develop your cost card. And I was like, what's a cost card? And I think the same approach should be with film photography. You need to make sure you know your exact costs, exactly, like, you know, if you're using 15 rolls of film to 40 rolls of film, like how many rolls of film, what type, and what are their current price, slightly increase it per roll, and know that full cost. Then look at the lab, look at how much they charge for what you want. Make sure you tot that up so you've got a film and a lab cost as like a total. So then that's your like cost. You've then got to remember that you've got a business to run. You've got to be fully aware of like how for a full year, how with all of these different subscriptions and software and equipment, etc., that you need to buy in a year, how much does that cost? So you have like your physical cost with the film and the lab, your travel, if you've got accommodation that is included in your price, because some people charge extra for accommodation and travel, some people include it in the price. I include it all because it just seems more straightforward for my brain as well. And then and then also like working out how much, you know, any other expenses that you might have within a wedding, like come up with like a base cost, physical, like non-changeable cost for film, lab, travel, accommodation, etc. Then, you know, also you have your business cost, which costs over the year. And then from there, you can then figure out where, if it's achievable to like, because some people I know are like hybrid right now and they want to go fully film. Film is actually increasing in price right now. Silver has shot through the roof. We can't it's not just gone up because they want to earn more money. It's because of like the economics and the political world right now. Silver's shot up. So therefore prices are increasing with Kodak. Oh, sorry, kick my table. With Kodak Alaris. Now there's two different bodies with Kodak. There's Kodak Eastman and Kodak Alaris. That's a whole different conversation. But like adding a bit of buffer on that cost. And then also looking at how much you've got in your, this is very analytical, but like how much is your rent? How much are your bills? Like all of those things. Like, are you a limited company? Are you a sole trader? Like, what does your tax look like? And then once you have all of those costs out in front of them, then I think you'll be able to accurately like place. I would say like when my first pricing, I was not making any money. I'm only now at the point where I am projected to make a good amount of money to be able to pay myself. But it took me a while, and it takes a while to gain trust with your clients, to gain traction online. So you can't, with film, obviously you've got to price it, making sure. And they say like, I think percentage wise, margin wise, I think if it's like 60 to 70%, like that's a healthy something. I can't remember. Again, I'm not good with statistics and stuff. But just work with loads of spreadsheets and keep an eye, like every wedding that you book, because you might be like, I've got like add-ons that people can have. They're like making sure that you're fully aware of what people are having and what people are paying, how many hours, and just like really going from like, start from like a physical cost card. What does it actually cost? How much do you need? How much is tax? How much does your business cost to float for the year? and then going backwards and like, okay, well, realistically, how much do you need to charge to be able to become fully film or to add more film roles? Because if you're hybrid, you're going to want to increase your film amount per wedding to be able to then showcase the full gallery on film, etc. So it's just coming from a place of like really knowing your physical costs first.
Yeah. And once you've done all that, that can help with like your target for the year in terms of number of weddings. Because if you see that you need to be charging X amount to cover everything and make profit and pay yourself, then either you need to shoot 20 weddings at this price or 40 weddings at half.
Yes,
like you
exactly.
can work everything out from there. So that might have scared a lot of people thinking, oh my God, that's a lot of work. But it will just help with future and longevity.
Yeah. And I'm really conscious not to scare anybody, because I did go into this blindly. I wasn't this planned and organized when I first started out. And it's something that you have to like learn over time. But I think just being aware of your costs, then you know you're not going to be like further down the line, like feeling physically sick when you can't pay your tax, you know?
Yeah. I think, and obviously everyone's origin story is different, but I feel like a lot of people get into this because it used to be a hobby or a passion, and then you start doing, like, a friend asked you to do a wedding, and then suddenly it was it graduated from a hobby to like kind of a job, but it's usually a slow transition. So I think people put all that work off at the beginning because they're enjoying it so much. But I do think it's a crucial part of making this like have longevity. So yeah,
because I don't. Oh, sorry, I don't want to interrupt. So, no, it's just like, because there's no like traditional path into wedding photography. Like there are people that study photography, but then like, you know, their careers might go in a completely different tangent. There's no sort of like pathway like with any other traditional workplace, even marketing, like those creative industries. Normally there's like a stepping stone pathway to getting to that. Wedding photography is completely arbitrary, so there's no path to follow.
Agreed. Let's move on to marketing then, since you brought it up, because I think it doesn't really matter how good a product you have or how good a service you offer, but if no one knows about it, then you're kind of dead in the water. And you obviously mentioned struggles at the beginning with film and communication with clients. How do you market? Do you have any advice for people out there in a world that is seemingly saturated with photographers, and there are so many platforms, TikTok, Instagram, Meta, having a blog, having a website, what platform do you have your website on? I mean, for everything. Give us some tips here for our listeners.
Gosh, again, I'm going to sound like I'm not like super business savvy. However, one of the first things I knew I wanted to get on with my style of work, and I don't think it's necessarily applicable anymore, is I wanted to get listed on Anti-Bride, but obviously I couldn't until I knew I had a body of work that reflected what they wanted to showcase. So it was last year that I actually was on the Anti-Bride directory. That was like my one goal in terms of marketing. Everything else has, I think, dangerously have just been on Instagram. However, I do think that's where most of my clients live. I have been having like chats with like my other photographer friends, how we're talking about like making sure that your website's really great and SEO and all of that. And that's something I need to take steps into next. However, like there are photographers out there that literally just don't have a website, run Instagram ads, and they are booked and busy. So I don't think, again, it's a case of like putting on the blinkers. Like, don't look too much at what other people are doing. Like, I've actually got like an app blocker, so I can't see Instagram for most of the day, because otherwise you just spend hours looking at other people's work and feeling rubbish about yourself. And then you kind of freak out that you should be doing like the other things. I have a TikTok, but I use it very rarely. If anything, like I know that my clients are not on TikTok. Like they're not researching wedding stuff on TikTok. And if they are, they're probably not my client. There are some increasing millennials talking about wedding planning on TikTok. That seems to be something that is happening. However, again, I don't want somebody who's just offshooting from a social media platform, like from a video, like, oh, I want that person kind of thing. They may not actually, the traction, they're probably not going to actually go through to booking with me. I'm not like a photographer for everybody. My price point is not for everybody either. So like if somebody's booking me, normally it's because they've like had a touch point with me. They followed me for a few months, and then they finally go, right, we're ready to commit and find out how much, it costs, etc. And then they reach out. But yeah, in terms of marketing, it's just, I would say Instagram is my main place, which is a little bit dangerous, I would say. I've recently just invested in my website, so that's all just got a completely new overhaul, because it was on a platform called Flow Themes, and Flow Themes got bought out by Pixieset. So I knew it was going to break at some point, and there was all these panic Facebook groups were like, you need to move your website over, and then I was like, it's still fine. But then this year I finally moved it over, so it's now on Show It. And I'm so proud of it. It's really, really great. But yeah, so having like a website that really reflects your work and like shows your work big in beautiful photographs, and it's easy to look at, and it's not like filled with loads of, I like lattes and poodles, just like your work. Like you just showcase your work in your photographs, because again, if there are loads of people, they're looking at loads of people, you need your images to be like front and center of their brain. Like people don't necessarily care if you drink matcha. Like they want to see how you're going to photograph their loved ones. So yeah, great website. Make sure your Instagram, you don't have to post every single day, but like when you do approach Instagram, that you're posting like some really hero images. I have like a few WhatsApp groups with the friends where we go, I'll like send my friends like my wedding gallery and be like, what photos are good? Because I'm blinded by what I like, but getting another perspective of what some other photographers who are in the industry as well, like what they like. And then you can see how other eyes work. Because I often post and I'll be like, oh, that didn't do so well, but I love those photographs. That's weird. And then my friends will like pick up like 10 other photographs. They're like, these are the amazing photos. And I was like, oh, really? I can't see that. So it's just understanding that your perspective of your work also isn't necessarily going to be your best-selling work, so to speak.
Yeah. And that is a funny feeling, because I remember when we did our first allotment for doing stills, because we do both now, hybrid and film infos for allotments. But when we sent them off, Greg said, I can't remember who actually you said, look at these.
I think on the drive home, I sent them to my wife. Like I just sent the previews, the 20 previews to her to be like, how did we do?
Yeah. And she came back, and the photos that she liked, I was like, oh, really? Interesting. Like she was like, this is the one. And I'm like, that is the one? Yeah. Okay. Oh, so interesting. But yeah.
Yeah, I think we often think that we've got the best vision on our work, and I think
oh, we don't.
We don't. We've got to remember that we have our eye, and couples own clients and other people have their eye, and you've got to sort of find the middle ground in what you showcase.
Yeah 100%.
So you're trying to like limit the amount of consumption on Instagram that you have. But you've got this core group of like a smaller group, more intimate connections. Are you putting more focus on like personal in-person connections and community as well?
I'm trying to. So I used to we still do. We've taken a bit of a pause, but with so a few years ago I was asked to speak on a panel of women in film photography, and I met somebody on there called Izzy Farr, and we became really quick friends, and from there we began this sort of creative community holidays for film photographers. She doesn't work in photography. She's not creative. I mean, she is creative. She's incredibly talented, but her job isn't, freelance. And I think we were just like talking about where we would go on holiday together. And I'm like, wouldn't it be nice to go on holiday with other people who just really like film, but aren't focused on like gear or tech and like all of the like cloud of like, what do you do this and you should do this and all of that crap. You just want to go away and take some nice photographs. So we created something called Film Gathering, and it is just literally like organizing hen-dos for people who like film, but without like all of the like crazy stuff. I say hen-dos, that's very gendered, but it's not. We have everybody come and join. But the idea is that it's just like a simple holiday. Everybody goes to a beautiful location. Obviously, we pick the locations with our eye and photography in mind so that people can take photos. The idea is that you can photograph other people, you can photograph still lives, you can just talk about film and like be around other people. And we started it, I think, 3 years ago, and we did one in Wales, and it was just the most fulfilling place to be. Met people from all over the country, and some people from Europe came as well. And it was just amazing to be around other people who are just passionate about film. It's not their job, but they just love film photography. And I never really got to meet those people in the UK with all of the things that are currently available in the UK. So being able to like do that was such an important part of informing, I think, my work as well. And then there's so many people who don't do it as a job, who do it as like a hobby and a passion and a creative outlet that we can learn so much from. And I think like when you're chronically online in our industry in particular, it is such a microcosm of just the same thing. And I think getting out of that and being around people who aren't in our industry, but who still have a passion for what you love is so refreshing, and really, really exciting. And they've become like so many of these people. We ran like 4 of them. And so many of these people are now like lifelong friends, and lots of them came to the next one and the next one. And that's something that I'm trying to hope to bring to the retreat. I'm going to be talking about, portraiture and empathy, and like just a lot of my experience of like being photographed, but also like how you photograph other people, not from an egotistical sense of like, I want this photograph as the photographer, which we're often fed, and it's all about us, when actually it's very much about the person in front of you, and you are taking a photograph of them that's going to be, you know, historical to their life, not to yours necessarily. So
Can you give our listeners maybe some like a helping hand with changing that mindset if they struggle with it? Because I mean, newbies certainly are me in terms of their portfolio building. But then there are other photographers who, again, have been doing this for a long time, and their approach doesn't change, and it's still quite me. Can you give some tips there?
Tips on breaking the ego.
Breaking the ego.
Breaking the ego. I think. Okay. If I won't target this to like people who've been doing it for a long time, because they're in their own stratosphere. For newbies that are approaching wedding photography, I think it's really good to get inspired by some of the tops. I think it's really good research to understand, like, what is doing really well, what are clients of that level requiring. However, understanding that there is probably an underbelly of other photographers who are equally as popular and incredible, that photograph in a slightly different style to the stereotypical. And again, I don't want to speak any names, because what is stereotypical to you might not be stereotypical to somebody else. But I think understanding that there is an absolute spectrum of different talent out there in the industry, and trying to find other people that you wouldn't necessarily like, where everybody follows. Like, try and find other people that are not maybe so well known, or are well known, but you just haven't ever come across them. It's very easy to fall down the trap of like, these big wedding blogs feature these photographers over and over and over again, and they're very talented and they're up there for a reason. However, there are an abundance of other people that have talent. But then also doing your own research into other forms of like portrait photography, buying books. Like, I bought recently the book from the movie June, all on film, and the director had hired another, I think he's a cinematographer, to come and just do film photography on set. And they are some of the most outstanding photographs And whilst they may not be directly applicable to weddings, so to speak, that's good. You need to feed yourself with other kinds of art and other ways of taking portraiture and different mediums, because I think that informs just a different approach. And also you can then have the confidence that you're not just instilled by wedding images, because we're all sort of recreating each other, because ultimately a wedding has a beginning and an end. We know like that there's some kiss at some point, and then there's vows, and then there's a party. Like, we have a certain recipe for weddings. However, when you look outside of the realm of weddings, there are so many other things, and there are some incredible wedding photography books. However, I would encourage you to look at, like, I've got this Polaroid book, but I can't remember his name. I'm terrible with names. But like, just looking at other photographers who have different bodies of work to what we create is just going to be so much more fulfilling. I don't mean that you need to go and look at that photo and go, oh, I need to recreate that. However, if that is something that comes out of it, then that's incredible. Then, you know, quietly in your brain, you'll notice a moment, you go, oh, I can recreate that really cool photo that I saw of Timothée Chalamet in the Dune book. And then you take that photo, and then that's immediately in your portfolio. And then you can showcase that if that's the kind of style of work you want to be putting out there. Just in informing yourself with other formats like books and other fields of, if it's film photography that you love, and I presume if you're listening to this, you probably like film photography, just like getting informed by other film photographers that are just artists and do focus on portraiture and inform yourself in that way.
Yeah. I'm trying to find the book that you were talking about. There's a couple.
I can go. I've got it behind me.
Could you? I'm intrigued. It's not Exposures, is it?
No, it's literally called Dune.
That's by Josh Brolin. Oh,
okay.
It's literally
Dune Exposures, I think, is the name. Is it by Josh Brolin? No.
No, it's from the movie Dune.
Yeah, no, but the photographer there.
Josh Brolin.
Is he
this one?
Yeah.
Dune Exposures.
Yeah.
There.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought that was the one, but there's a few others. The work looks incredible.
It's incredible to see as well. Like, I'm often informed by like movie stills as well, and they're just, some of them are so like I mean, I'd never do something like that maybe on a wedding day, but like.
Cool.
But so cool, and you can see the scratches on the negatives as well.
Yeah.
And it's just a different way of looking at photography.
You can get that for under 40 quid if people are shopping on Amazon. But support your local bookshops, please.
Yeah, if you can, please.
Please.
But yeah, no. So I often buy books that focus on different compositions, like also interior books as well. Like, I really like looking at those. I have to admit, like, I have a very particular aesthetic in terms of like when I'm looking for things, but then maybe that's why my work is quite narrow in its point. So yeah, but I believe, like, because I photographed so many people, not necessarily like on their wedding day, it's helped me understand just the emotional, historic value of what we do.
Hey, I'm Ashley from With Jack. I'm one of the sponsors of the Perspective podcast. With Jack helps to keep photographers in business by supporting them financially and legally if they have problems with a client or they make a mistake in their work. We've all had that fear of our CF card or our hard drive failing and losing important photos. You can find out more at withjack.co.uk. Head over there and find out how we can help you be a confident creative.
You mentioned your painterly aesthetic in your work, but also the kind of point of view. And I'm right in saying that you don't like portraits of people looking right at your lens. Is that correct? Or
yeah, it's weird. Yeah, I need to. It's a thing that I need to. I'm actually trying to tweak now. I often don't like people looking down the lens at me. I've come to notice that.
Okay.
which is great for some couples because they can't look down the barrel. Obviously I do get, like, when I do group photos, I don't all have them like looking up.
Yes. Just looking
That said,
sideways.
though, there is a lot of the group photos that my couples reference are the ones where they're looking at each other rather than they're looking down the lens. So I think that is a slight secret superpower of mine, that I don't focus on people looking down the camera. However, I am trying to fine tune this and find the balance of, and I do have plenty of photographs of people looking at the camera. But it is about trying to find my balance of, like, you know, where people are looking off. And one of the things I actually ask in my questionnaires is, like, do you have any insecurities? I want to know, like, if they have, and sometimes it's a little bit like, come on. But it's also important to be aware, like, if they've got a mole that they don't like, if they've got a bald patch that they want hidden. I mean, I'm 5'3.5", so bald patches are fine with me. But but it's just one of those things, like, being aware of, like, how many times have we put ourselves in front of the camera? And I've done my fair bit of being in front of the camera, and it is incredibly vulnerable. Even if you're dressed to the nines and you feel like you look your best, it's an incredible, vulnerable place to be. And remembering that on the wedding day, they have a lot of expectations of how they look, and it's guiding that expectation and also holding a space for how they might be feeling. And you know, there's going to be people that regret the way that they do their hair on the day, and you have to be instinctively aware of the human people behind, and also reminding them that the people around them are also human as well.
Yeah. How do you navigate that in conversations?
Lots of talking. I think I'm quite, again, I will have done a lot of groundwork with my couples in the lead up. I'm quite personable when I'm on the calls with them. I make that a point, because if in the first consultation call, a couple don't want somebody personable, they're actually, like, kind of want somebody a little bit more standoffish and a bit more professional, they know that they're probably not going to want me. And I can immediately tell on the Zoom call what person they want me to play, but I make sure I then maybe slightly overamp my personability, because I want them to know that I'm not going to be, like, I need my clients to be engaged with me and also lead them. I think couples who want to lead me or want somebody who's a little bit more standoffish aren't going to do well with me. So I make a big point of trying to make sure that my personality comes across quite well. So by the time we're having conversations, and I'm already probably aware of, like, family dynamics by that point. So on the day, I'm already really, really aware if I need to somehow shuffle mum out of the room, or I need to do breathing with the bride for 5 seconds. Like, I will take the time to make sure that I'm instinctively aware of, like, what's going on. And I think that is where my ADHD comes into power. Like, my I hate calling my
Your
empath.
superpower? Oh, right.
But, like, I think I'm quite emotionally aware. I'm a sponge, childhood trauma, of, like, things that are happening around me. So I can pick up on body language and cues and facial expressions, so I sort of know when to jump in. But also, because I've already led my couple to that point, they feel and they know they can rely on me to be that person. It can be emotionally exhausting, I'm not going to lie. And if you don't want to do that, don't do it, because it means paying attention to a lot of things that we shouldn't necessarily have to be responsible for. We don't have to. And it's funny because I do camcorder videography as well. I've been on the other side where I just do the video, and I've seen how the photographer manages the situation. And when they're so standoffish, I'm like, oh, how do you do that? I'm like there ready to jump in and be like, what do you need? Like, I'll do this. Like, I've made bouquets. Like, I'm that's the kind of person I am. And it's not for everyone. And I don't know, if you're like me, then maybe it's a good way. But navigating those conversations, therefore, I think is a little bit easier because I already have that rapport.
Yeah. So you actually mentioned camcorder stuff. We haven't even talked about what you actually offer your clients, and obviously video is part of that. So
yes.
Do you want to tell us what exactly you offer, and then go into your video art, because I'm intrigued.
Thank you. So obviously I offer full day analog photography. But I also offer camcorder videography. Now, this is something that I remember. So I used to do a lot of video work in fashion, and I've always been a lover of making videos and such. So I was trying to figure out like what kind of video offering I would want to do. And I kept getting asked for it. I don't know if you guys get this. Like, you just get it all the time. Like, oh, do you do video as well? And you're like, I haven't seen a video anywhere. Why would I offer it?
Yeah.
But because I kept getting asked so often, again, I wanted to figure out, well, if I'm going to offer video, what would I want to do? Super 8, obviously, everybody seems to be doing, and it would make sense for me to do it. However, I was like, the cameras are huge, and I think that I wouldn't be able to do both photography and camcorder videography at the same time. With camcorder, I wanted, again, my memories and nostalgia of video is on VHS, which is, pretty much all of my childhood videos are on camcorder. So that's what I wanted to do. I didn't want the hassle of dealing with tapes. So I was just researching endlessly for like these sort of like 90s Sony handycams.
Okay.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the camcorders I use. Again, I approach it in a similar aspect of like Super 8. I think of it as there not being any sound.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just videoing moving moments. I mean, I end up with like 5 to 6 hours of footage I then have to cut down. But, I do want to offer Super 8 at some point, and I do have Super 8 cameras, but until it feels good and right to me, and also the price point of Super 8, it will just have to be astronomically way more than what I charge for a camcorder. And I'm just not sure I'm wanting to do that right now. The camcorder offers a similar approach where I can create something. It's not cinema. It's not cinema. It's not like anything advanced, but it's something very, again, harking to that millennial nostalgia of like childhood memories. And I've had a lot of people book it because they're like, I remember my dad used to do this for me, and they might have lost their parents, and it's just sort of like a nice feeling for them to see somebody there on the day with a camcorder. And it again ties to an emotional pull again. And I really do love what I do. It's frustrating. I find video really frustrating. I find it more challenging than photography. And yeah, but it is really, really lovely. And I think when you think about, and I think it's really important to have video of the people that you love, because, God forbid when we lose them, photos are beautiful, but having like a moving video of somebody that you love, just, it means a lot. So, I've had like couples reach out and be like, oh, this person passed away, and it's really nice to see all the raw footage, because they can add on all the raw footage, so they get a USB with like 6 hours of all the footage, and some of them are video clips of the floor because I've forgotten to turn it off and all of that. Yeah. But yeah, I think moving image is so important. And I love it, but it takes me longer to do video than photo.
Yeah. What is the final output for the video? You mentioned they can add on raw footage, but is it a set number of minutes you aim for? Yeah, I try and, I'm trying not to. I used to set like the amount of minutes, but now because I'm sort of picking music that matches the energy and the vibe of the day, I've noticed that like there'll be a Beatles song that lasts like 2.5 minutes, and then I'm like, oh crap. So it's sort of like trying to depict a wedding day. When I have like a Zoom call, I would always say like it's going to be around the 4-minute mark. However, with music, etc., there's going to be some variation. And because again, my couples let me pick the music, they let me lead on that. They trust that, and they've seen all the samples. They sort of like, they're happy with an atmospheric video of between 3 to 5 minutes long. I always have like this little intro at the beginning, which I really quite like doing now, which has like a different type of music that sort of gives like an overview, which is sort of like a cute little preview for like 30 seconds. And then it goes into the like video. But some videos I do chronologically of the day because it makes sense to. And then some of them like chop and change from like different parts of the day. So I'm still, I think I'm still growing and figuring out my style per se. But because I'm approaching it from an idea that it is like Super 8,
I'm not going to have gallons and gallons of footage, because if in one day when I do move over to Super 8, I have to already be ready to deal with the less amount of footage, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that is tricky. Oh my God, I was going to ask a question and I've totally forgotten about it. That's very annoying. I had it in my brain for so long.
If you can't think of it, I'm going to shift on to weird. We should talk about weird a bit more. If Simon can't think of his question. So you've got your fireside talk about empathy and portraiture. What else are you looking forward to? Weird.
Gosh. Again, just being, because I don't get out and hang out with people a lot. So I'm like, so as much as I seem like a very conversational, like personable, like I'm chatty person, I really struggle with networking. I'm not a good networker. I don't like going on photo walks. I'm not that girl. However, this is going to be a really nice opportunity to meet other people in the wedding industry that, are incredibly talented, but also just other people. I think it's nice to hang out with and learn from other people, even if they're there to learn themselves. I just don't, that will never be lost to me. Like speaking to other people who might know you, might not know you, you learn about them, they learn about you. And just I think because of what I'm focusing in on, I'm so excited to have some really in-depth conversations about it as well, because it's not just, I'm excited not to talk about weddings. I'm excited to talk about portraits and people. And that's really, really important to me. So yeah.
Do you do work outside of photography, like portraiture work, whether that be in someone's home or a studio or anything like that? Or?
Yeah, I still take on hospitality jobs and portraits and headshots and anything where people want me to do video or photography. I still do a little bit of fashion work, but I just not as much. I still get model agencies that message me to do tests and stuff like that, but because weddings are sort of now my focus, I mainly do that. But yeah, I'm now in the season of family portraits, which is really nice.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, that's cool. Going back to weird, do you have a roll top bath?
No, I don't.
Must only be one. We all know who's got it. So.
No, I think I don't. Yeah, is that because I'm saying someone's staying in the room? That's got this.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
There's one of the people who are down as a speaker who's demanded a roll top bath.
Really?
That's right.
Oh my gosh.
In a nice way.
Oh.
Actually, who was it? Was it? I'm trying to think.
Don't tell people because they'll have to go and listen to the other episodes.
I think I can remember who it was, but I've slightly forgot.
I have a feeling I'm going to be in a bunk bed or something like that.
Yeah. Us too. It'll be Greg and I. Maybe we won't.
Are you going to be there?
We'll be there.
Nice.
We're not sure yet how long for. But yeah, we'll be hosting the Q&A part of whatever evening it decides to be on. But yeah, so we'll be there and we're looking forward to it. But we both have to check on our wives to make sure that we've got our kids looked after and everything's good there. So
yeah, I think I had to adjust my day because I had a wedding inquiry come in and then I've got to fly to China for a job after. So I was like, no, I need to do my fireside shot a day earlier because otherwise I won't make it back in time.
Yeah. Oh my God. Oh, China. That's a good flight. Is that a wedding or?
Yeah, it's a wedding.
Yeah, cool. Tell us about it.
They've just gone for video camcorder, and it's happening in a place called Hangzhou, which is about an hour out from Shanghai. I'm super excited. I first went to China last year just on a holiday with a friend, and absolutely obsessed. And I'm not a manifester, but then when the inquiry came in, I was like, holy wow, that's manifesting. That's really cool. And because I already have my visa, I was like, yeah, absolutely. Count me in.
That's handy. Yeah.
But figuring out the costing of it, though, was really complicated because it's just flying there and the cost. I mean, staying there is not expensive, but the flights are astronomical. So I was a bit like, are they actually going to go for it? And then they did. And I was like, okay. Cool.
Nice.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. Are you going by yourself, or are you
No, so they've
taking your
booked.
partner?
Yeah, my partner comes, so he's often my like free labor / assistant.
Nice.
He's really excited. He often is like my second camcorder videographer. And because they've booked like full speeches and full vows, he will be focusing on doing like the full, like the plane staying in one place, filming the whole thing. Whereas I get to then go around and do all the atmospheric stuff. So yeah,
Cool.
they've added on full. So he gets to come, which he's very happy about.
I bet.
Yeah.
That is lovely.
So the full coverage of ceremony speeches, that's still camcorder as well? So you don't use mirrorless or something for that?
No, it is just camcorder. And again, I said to them, I was like, it's just camcorder. There's no mics and stuff. And they were like, yeah, fine. And I was like, cool. Because some people are just down for that. So
that is cool. I love that. Because as we both know, I'm sure, audio is the shittest part of being a filmmaker.
Yeah. That was the things like, so when I like wanted to do video, I was like, oh, I don't think I want to do the whole miking up stuff like that. That gives me anxiety. And also like the idea of like putting a big old pack on somebody in an intimate area. Oh, just no. I just want to be there and film from the corner. And like, I like to be sort of like not very, funnily enough, when I'm a photographer, you know, I'm there. When I'm a videographer, I don't want you to know I'm there. So,
yes.
Yeah.
I wish I could do that, but no, just can't do it. It's fine. I'm used to doing it now, but yeah, it's like doubling up your workload on the day. It's like the one thing, especially when you got like, I don't know, a ceremony with like surprise readings, or, you know, that's where you have to know all your information. Like who's doing readings, when are they doing them, who's saying their vows first or whatever, like all those little nuanced details. Because you can be in the wrong place at the wrong time, and that's not what you do want to happen. But yeah,
no,
good times. Should we go into show and tell?
Show and tell, yeah.
Show and tell.
I'm a bit nervous about this bit, man.
Why?
Don't be.
Your work's amazing.
I'm just like,
it's amazing. Okay, so I actually can't remember how many images I selected of yours. I think it's about 4. 4. Okay, it's good.
I love this one.
I can't remember which ones either, but I'll let you know why I picked it and what I like about it, and then if you just tell me the backstory or anything to do with the image that you created. Okay.
Yeah.
So this one just seemed like it was straight out of my grand's wedding album. Yeah. Such a timeless style of flowers and wedding dress. And again, as we've talked about a few times, it's an example of someone not looking at your lens. And it's that beautiful, like, I don't know, there's something really delicate about this moment. And that's why I like it. As well as it just being black and white, which I think also adds to the timelessness that I feel when I look at this image. But tell me about this.
Oh yeah, I love this photo. That's on my Canon A1 on that like big zoom lens, the 70-200 4.5. Wow, okay. Yeah, so that's what I mean when I was talking earlier about like the flattened subject. That and the background just sort of like being this lovely blur. That is what that's taken on Delta 400, and it's just. Oh, so beautiful. So this was right after their confetti moment. I was actually add-on. So they had a lead digital photographer. I was like a film add-on, and this was actually quite early on in my career. So this is about 2 years ago now. And there's a few weddings. There's a few photos from this wedding. It was in December as well, so I knew I didn't have a lot of light. And we basically pulled the couple outside it's at Fulham Palace. And they have like a little archway, and they had very intimate. I think there was like 10 family members. They had a little confetti moment. And I basically always placed myself off to the side. And the lead photographer was obviously sort of like in the middle. But I think I quite loved being off to the side because it meant that I could get moments like this. And because I was leaning into a lot more black and white for that wedding day, because it's more sympathetic with low light situations, etc. But also, she was wearing like an antique vintage veil. So I think that's probably what adds to this softness. And her hairstyle was really vintage and like the whole vibe. I didn't actually know anything about this wedding before I turned up as well. I didn't know that this was like one of those weddings. I had no idea. I was just, I was friends with the lead photographer and she was just like, they would really love film. I really like you. Can you come along? Can you give me a quote? Yeah. And then they booked it as well, which was really exciting for me. And it was also my first time sort of learning to use on a wedding aspect with like, you know, it was a bloody windy, rainy day. So I knew we wouldn't have a lot of like outdoor setup, but the fact that, you know, it's that side light. They were under this alcove. There was side light coming in. It was all of the situation that I love.
You know, you mentioned the light there because when you said it was outside, I was kind of surprised, but then that makes more sense that they're underneath something because if you look at the top left to the bottom right, there is kind of like a line of shadow from the whites to the bottom left to the top right, and then the shadows coming in from the opposite side, kind of like a natural focus point to her face. I love it. It's great.
Yeah. Again, I can't say that it wasn't a manipulated situation at all. It was very much like of the moment. And she was just, I think, looking back at, I can't even remember if she was looking back at anybody, but it was a very serendipitous moment, I think.
Yeah.
Simon used the word like timeless for this. And a lot of photographers say, I want my work to be timeless. Usually that's like, yeah, of course, but it's always dated by the fashion or whatever. So when you look at this, you go, well, her hairstyle and then the vintage dress.
Yeah.
You'd be like, oh, this could have been the 50s or the 60s. Like, so it pretty much is timeless, I would guess, because it was only a couple of years ago. I'm really proud of there's a few photos from this wedding that I loved. It's a black and white film. It's the Delta 400. I think it's key. Like if you are looking into film photography and you want that nostalgic, really old school film, like having the more monochromatic black and white films is going to get you results as well.
Yeah, I agree. And this is a perfect example of that. But yeah, you know, Greg's right, because we do use the term timeless quite casually sometimes, and we're not really too sure how it really how the use of that word looks like in terms of like a portfolio or whatever, because as one of our past guests have mentioned, you know, the term timeless isn't quite accurate all the time because, you know, the fashion does date the photography. And so, I suppose it's the juxtaposition here of the old fashioned with the film, but happening nowadays. It's like those, you're not able to define it. Or if you were to look at this image, you'd maybe even define it from the 1930s, you know, and you'd be wrong. So it's that. Next image, Greg. Gregory! Yes! Okay, so our listeners will absolutely know that whenever there's a film photographer on and I get to show and tell, there's always an image where it's like, I don't know, fucked. It's fucked. Yeah. Like, whether it's the end of the roll or the beginning of the roll or whatever, but it's these moments are absolutely my favorite. And I don't know if it's just because, you know, the excitement of not knowing if you've got an image for film is quite intense for me. Yeah. Or when I used to shoot it, I don't anymore. But yeah, it's just that excitement. And then to find an image that has fucked up, but it still works, is such a beautiful a moment of like just serendipity, yet technical issues with film and dealing with an actual practical medium. So good. So tell me about this image. What do you like about it? Yeah.
It's the exact same set. It's the Canon A1. Is the exact same lens as well.
Okay.
I think the roll was at the end, but because I always somehow get 37 to 38 exposures on the Canon A1. I think it's sort of in that last, I'm always able to, because it's not automatically winding it. I wind it myself. So I'm always able to, like, you know how they say when you load your camera, you wind it 3 to 4 times. I don't. I just start going. So I think it's one of those moments where it's sort of maybe at the beginning or at the end might have been me forcing the last photo a little bit. Which you have to be careful of. But yeah, no, it was on a wedding day. Again, I was actually, funny enough, I was off to the side again. I was an additional booking. So this couple it's again, when you're like not front and center, and when you're not their main focus, when they're not looking at the camera, that's when I feel like maybe my work shines.
Mm-hmm.
And they actually booked me because they'd won like a free engagement session with me. And they were like, we're obsessed with you. And I was like, if you've already had a photographer, please check with them first that they are happy, because it doesn't necessarily seem. And they were like, we'll go away. And I actually love their lead photographer. I've worked with her a few times now. And yeah, it was just really lovely. Again, I had the brilliance of being able to be off to the side. But they actually said they wanted to do specific photographs with me. So I think this was part of that session, that time with us two together. And it was later on in the day. I think the light had dipped a little bit more. It was April time, early April. So again, sort of still that sort of low light, not sunny. Like everyone always thinks like, oh, film is only really good in like the really sunny conditions. And I love film in all conditions. If anything, when the light is a little bit more challenging, I think that's where film really, really makes an image special. And that they were just so in love. I mean, you can't, like, nothing beats it as a photographer when you've got a couple who cannot stop touching themselves, like touching each other, touching each other. When they're all over each other and they just give you so much, like you're spoiled for choice. Like, and we've all dealt with couples who are a little bit more awkward and a little bit like, we don't like PDA, and it's just like, well, it's your wedding day. It's one day. Come on.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, have a snog. And these guys they're just so in love, and just, they were giving us so much.
I love it. You mentioned that you like to underexpose film. To me, when I look at this, you can see that you do, but I like it. I like it because of that. As well.
Yeah.
What was the reason you said that you underexpose?
Because I like getting the depth of the images, and I go back to the Dutch artist and like the real sort of like, again, it's similar to the first photo that you showed. Like you've got one side of the image that is slightly darker, and then it almost slightly highlights the light. And my work always focuses around light. Funnily enough, I think all film photographers focus around light, but I really like my depths in the shadows and it dropping off a little bit more, so you get more contrast, but in a soft manner, I would say.
I think that film in particular is good for that, or that's what it looks like anyway, because I don't shoot it, so I don't know. Anyway, next image, Greg. Oh man, I love this image so much. I like it because it's that the couple aren't the focus, really. It's what I'm assuming is the mums. Is that the mum? Is that both mums, or
the mum's in red and I think it's auntie in pink.
Okay, but she's like dead center with that pop of red. But the joy in her face is just so good, and obviously the couple are off to the side doing their thing. It's her just joyful reaction is what I love about this. Tell me why you took this image.
This is, I think, one of my favorite group photos I've ever taken, and I think it's also what couples are now really starting to like in terms of group photos. The more relaxed, like we're not necessarily everybody staring at the camera. It's sort of like capturing a moment of movement as well. I always, whenever I take group photos, I always do the center one, get that a few times, and then I'll always go off to the side and I'll always make some sort of movement. I'll be like, okay, everybody does do something. And then I'll be like to the couple, I'll be like, kiss. And then everybody will do something sort of strange. They'll either laugh at me or they'll look a bit awkward or whatever. But I could see her mum and parents and that, it was his family who were just like in so much joy. And I was just like, okay, that I'm just going to go to that side. I didn't overthink it that much. I didn't worry that I wasn't getting everybody. I wanted to I always try and get a photo that is like off-centered group photo where the couple are off-centered and everybody else is like doing something around them. I think it's kind of becoming like a little recipe. I think this is Portra 400. This is on my 50mm lens as well.
Yeah, no, it's funny how many amazing images are taken that are just, you're almost, I don't want to say you're trained to take them because of the moment that's happening. But yeah, there's almost like no forethought. It's just like, something's going to happen. You're going to be ready and it's there. It just happens.
Yeah.
I really like those images. Yeah, nice job here. And I think there's one more, and I believe it's yes. The framing of the shot is so good. I love. This is nothing to do with this image, but I do love playing with the background with people, and whether it's framing them in a frame within a frame, or whether it's like putting things on their heads. I really like doing that. Like we have a lot of antlers in Scotland, so I'm usually giving the groom some antler heads.
Yeah.
But I don't know. There's something quite, I don't want to say childlike, but I kind of do mean it in a most complimentary way. Like playing with shapes and have it be almost as simple as that. I think simplicity in an image is a sign of like a really good photographer, when they're able to just not be too pretentious, but just enough to have something unique. But tell me why you took this image, and again, it's also another one where no one's looking at your camera. I love it. So good. You're on side. Yes, so good.
Funny enough, so this was last year in September in France. It's a gorgeous venue called Le Bastille de Lens. American couple. So she was actually very comfortable looking at the camera, but one of the things that they said is they really wanted me to focus on my style of art with their weddings. So they actually I got to have a second digital photographer who focused on the group photos, and just sort of like doubled up a little bit. My amazing Emma. And I got to basically, I still photographed just as much as I normally do. So they had like the most meatiest gallery known to man. And I just got to walk around taking really, just not worrying about making sure that I had enough film for like the 25 group photos that they wanted. But also American couples, they like having big galleries is what I've learned. So I just knew, because I had the digital side covered for capturing like that, like, when someone grabs you and be like, can we get a group photo? Yeah. And because I guided them to have that, because I knew that's what they would need. But they just wanted me to focus on art and stuff. And this was just after their first look. So it was actually was it my first ever first look? No, it wasn't. But because it was indoors, because the ceremony was outside, I knew everything had to be indoors. So again, I'm playing with my favorite lighting situation. You can see so there's a big window in front of her. Sunlight is pouring in. I knew I didn't want her to go into that sunlight yet. They often ask you, couples are like, oh, what do you want me to do? And I just said, just stand there and look away. And he was already sat down on the sofa, but I knew I wanted to get plenty of her in her dress. I mean, that wedding was like a recipe for the most stunning day ever. I don't think I went over the amount of film I'd allocated. I packed extra because I knew I would, but I took so many photographs of her, and they're some of my best performing Instagram posts. Like there's one that's got like 11,000 likes, and it's her again, indoors, side window light, just like a painting. And for me, this was very much that sort of like harking back to the Dutch masters, that Vermeer. There's a single individual as the subject matter. There are like a few things going on and around, but you look at them and like you don't need to see their face to understand the story of the day. It is just sort of like, I actually didn't really notice the framing of the framing until you mentioned, Simon. So it was really nice.
Really?
No, I didn't. And it wasn't planned. I just told her to go stand next to the piano. Like, I didn't plan that at all.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
I hadn't
so
noticed that.
So this was not intentional?
No.
Oh my God. That is so interesting.
It wasn't intentional because like again, you also, when you're in a venue, you have to deal with the surroundings that you have. I think if I was going to pick, I would have been like, maybe move the painting, because I would have been like, oh, a clean background. But then I was just like, I'm also like turning the gear of just like, you accept the environment that you're in. And also when I think of all of the paintings that I really love, they do have lots of things in the background. And that's true to the space and that venue. I mean, every single thing that was around them was just utterly stunning. Like there was just, I don't think there was a single bad photo of that day. And again, it's one of those things that you're just very lucky to walk into and not have. I was a little concerned about light because of how contrasty it was.
Sure.
But then I just knew I'm also playing with some of my favorite lighting opportunities, and everyone always just like, oh, get them outdoors. And I'm like, no, stay indoors. I love indoor photography. Again, I just keep, whenever I think of whenever I'm creating a photograph, it is just like, there's this Vermeer painting of like, a woman pouring a vase into a bowl, and she's like got all this lovely different colors. And there's like this window and there's like wood textures and fabric and everything. And it just like, for me, this photo is a success because of what I want to create from my inspiration.
Yeah. I wonder. Hang on, Greg.
Go for it.
There's a delay. Oh, now I just feel bad. Bossy. I'm a bully. I'm a bully. No, I was just gonna say, if someone was to take this on digital, or even take the TIFFs and bring them into their editing software, I fear that people would tidy up the guitar. They would tidy up that vase on the side with the plant. They would tidy up maybe some of that. The image quality that I've got in front of me isn't amazing, but is there a curtain on the left?
Yes,
So these little things that they would clean up, and I'm glad that hasn't been done here.
Yeah. No. This is untouched.
Cool.
I think if anything, if I ever touch my film photos, I do a little bit of like adding a little bit of depth. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I was just going to say that you mentioned like the guidance that you gave this bride to get the sort of pose and the photo. What is your usual approach with a couple session in terms of direction and guidance? Do you do much, or is it quite hands off?
Yeah, no. I have learned that I am actually quite hands on. A lot of my couples, I think, like to be led. They're often quite self-conscious in front of the camera. I've described them, they're quite camera shy. So having me guide them, and I think this comes back to when I did a lot of fashion photography, I'm used to directing people. And one of my like lines is like, even the professional models need to be told what to do. So don't feel self-conscious about not knowing how to hold yourself. So I will often say, hey, can you place your hand? Can you look off into the distance? I always start off with looking away from me. And that's probably why I have a lot of photographs where people aren't looking at the camera, because people need to get used to being in front of the camera for a little bit. Because often sometimes, with this couple, they hadn't met me before the wedding day. If I have couples in the UK, I'll always try and meet them beforehand and do like a little 1 hour portrait session with them in London if they're close by. So they get used to the sound of the shutter and used to me. But when you're coming into an event sort of raw, you need them to warm up a little bit. And sometimes that's easier when they're looking away from the camera because they sort of get used to it. And it's so much easier when you're not looking at the camera. And also it's film. So like if they're looking like this, like you've just wasted a shot. So getting them to be comfortable and looking away is often easier. With her, it was absolutely no problem. This just came about because I saw a moment, I wanted her to look out the window and I just wanted the focus to be on her silhouette. She was very comfortable looking at the camera, but also I think I made her look away because the lighting wasn't flattering for her to look at the camera. So I must have been an active choice in going, she's just going to be dark in the face. It's not going to be very flattering. So there's no point in her looking at the camera. I'll get her to look at the camera when the light is more bouncing onto her face when she's on the other side of the room, which is what I did have her do. So the groom is off to the right. And then later on, I sort of told her to walk towards him. He was sat down and then we just sort of get them to pause a little bit. The team on this job was a little bit heavier because I had camcorder. So my partner was there doing the camcorder. I had Emma who was doing digital. And then obviously there's me. I was leading the direction. When it came to group photos, I let Emma lead because then they would all look down the camera. And then I was doing my favorite offside photographs, the in-between moments that I love to focus on. But yeah, I would say I'm quite hands-on. Because my clients quite like being directed. There are moments that you can tell in my work are the in-between, but I always am often giving a prompt at the beginning. And most of the time with couples, I'm just saying, can you just look at each other, kiss each other, hug each other, just hug. That'll be often the thing that I say to make them feel a little bit more comfortable. And that's what I love. Because then I can get really close when they're hugging, like they're not conscious about like their faces. I can get really in close and then I'll be like, okay, can you go in for a kiss? And then they look magical and beautiful. They're not conscious of the fact that I'm like suddenly there. They already know and they've heard the shutter near them. So that's sort of normally how I guide.
Amazing.
Cool.
Amazing. That was the last image. I do want to ask, because you mentioned you mentioned photographers, but not by name. Who are you like? Whose work are you really liking right now in the wedding industry?
There's a photographer called, I don't know if this is the right pronunciation, but Norwed, Norwed. Love their work. Their work is some of my favorite, and I think they're hybrid as well. I think they are Spanish, so I would not even be able to. I can give you the link to their work.
Please.
But their work is incredible. I think they're a duo, film photographers as well. Often in Portugal and hotter climates. I love their work. Huge fan of, I have to make sure I get this name correct. I'm terrible with names. I think it's Sophie Berard. Her work is incredible. Jess Workman, incredible. Nicole Plett, incredible. They are all very heavily film focused in their work, and they're just incredible artists. But there are some amazing, like Norwood, and then this Diaster something, like they are stunning. And there's so many others that are incredible out there.
Yeah. You know what?
Sophie,
I think it was Sophie.
Yeah. That's who you were thinking of when you were talking about the detail shots.
Yeah. Building up client relationships. Listeners, we have a really good podcast with Sophie, so definitely go check it out.
She's in luxury. She's incredible. She's also just an incredible human. Like she's really down nice. To earth. Yeah. Yes. I really appreciate just her popping on. Like she was in a hotel room, and it was just like room messy, bed unmade, and she's just like I don't want to say she's messy. That's not herself, but like she was just like so casual and down to earth. And then Thrive, she was the same. Just a lovely human. Yeah. And I like lovely humans. There's not enough of them these days. Jesus. Yeah. Jesus. Anyway, again, we've already got a book recommendation from you, so I suppose we don't need to ask. Yes. Yeah.
Unless
we
there's
should stick
another
with
one
that one.
pops. Yeah, let's just stick with that one. Let's just stick with that one. Greg,
Yeah.
do we have enough money in the account to buy it? Because it does look good.
Maybe.
Yes.
Do it. It's really lovely.
I actually feel I feel bad actually about getting Greg to buy books because they just end up in my house right here.
Yeah. How do you split books?
Yeah. I mean this. So yeah, the perfect imperfect. Yeah, the perfect imperfect by John Dolan. We got for the office, but I just took it home and it's just
Been your bath
it's
time
just,
read.
it's just stayed here. I read it when I'm listening to vinyls. I mean, sorry, Greg. If you want a shot, I'll let you have it for a bit.
Oh, thank you.
But then it goes back home. All right. Anyway, Sundari, thank you very much for joining us on this episode of the podcast. Where can people find you online if they want to check out your work?
So I'm on Instagram, by Sundari Photo, and then my website is just sundariPhoto.co.uk.
Very cool, very cool. Yeah, definitely go check her out. And I don't know if I've said this on the podcast, but back in the old days, Jesus Christ, the recommendation for photographers to help with their imposter syndrome was to unfollow everyone. But everyone is like, there's so much AI stuff out there. I'm actually starting to think that we should actually just be following people who make good work. So I'm gonna shift the dialogue on this one, and hopefully people start listening. Everyone that you've unfollowed and stuff, like, it's fucking hard to be in the any sort of artistic field. Start liking and following people again. And if you feel bad about yourself, I think everyone does. I don't know. We'll need to find another way to cope with imposter syndrome. I don't know. Get back to me on that one. I'll give it some thought. But yeah, start liking and following people again, because the fucking robots are taking over. Anyway, not to panic you. People can find us at perspectivebycinemate.com. Our Instagram is at perspectivebycinemate. It's Cinemate Films if you want to check out our Instagram. It's Elopements for the Feral if you also want to check out our elopement stuff, but you don't have to. Don't worry about it. But I do hope you are ready for weird. Get ready for the 3-day creative retreat built for photographers, artists, and makers who just want space to breathe and room to think. It's happening on the 23rd to the 26th of March, 2026 at Arc Peaks in the heart of the Peak District. There's only a few tickets left, I believe, still. It's not a big event, but it's definitely going to be fun. And hell, if you're not going to buy a ticket, I hope you've enjoyed listening to our speakers as much as we've enjoyed speaking to them. But yeah, anyway, if you've loved this conversation, hit subscribe on our YouTube at youtube.com/perspective by Cinemate, or wherever you get your podcasts, and we will see you in the next one. However,
in the meantime,
stay weird and enjoy your life.